Imagine living in a quiet corner of the Pacific Northwest. Lush forests, rainy streets, familiar faces. Then one day, the unspeakable happens. A woman disappears. Later, more women vanish, one after another. Their bodies are found in remote wooded areas, 100 miles apart, bloodied and abandoned. Fear grips the region. Rumors swirl. Could this be the work of a serial killer? Fast forward. A man named Jesse Lee Calhoun, previously convicted of assaults and caught up in firefighting efforts, now stands accused, not just of one murder, but of 4. And it's all unfolding right now. This is not just a crime. It's a wake-up call, because behind each statistic is a life erased. And justice has a long road ahead. Welcome to the Crime Vault, where every day we shine a light on the darkest corners of true crime, because remembering matters. If you're here for the real, the raw, and the relentless pursuit of truth, hit subscribe and ring that bell now. Today's story is grinding in real time. A serial-facing suspect now charged with 4th murder. Families are demanding justice. Questions are multiplying, and you're about to hear every detail. It began in November 2022 in the quiet residential neighborhoods of Gresham, Oregon, a misty, rain-slicked town where neighbors wave from porches and a hum of distant traffic was the loudest sound you'd hear after midnight. That's where 22-year-old Kristen Smith vanished without a trace. Kristen wasn't just a statistic. She was vivacious, compassionate, a young woman with dreams bigger than her small town. Friends described her as fearless, someone who would chase sunsets and bottle that light for anyone feeling lost. On the night of her disappearance, she was out with friends. A text at 11:47 p.m. said she was heading home. Then nothing. No calls returned. No sign of struggle. Just radio silence. Weeks later, the ache for answers still raw. Hikers discovered her body a mile off any trail, crumpled in her towering firs and wet underbrush. Dead. Alone. In a place carved out of nobody's memory. The community held its breath, not expecting what came next. In April 2023, nearly half a year later, a second body was found. 24-year-old Charity Perry, discovered in a shallow ditch, her life cut short in silence. No getaway car, no clear evidence of motive, just death in a place that begged to be forgotten. Fear rippled through Oregon. Was this a coincidence? Then came 2 more. 31-year-old Bridget Webster on a remote logging road in Polk County, and 32-year-old Joanna Speaks, abandoned in a barn in Ridgefield, Washington. Different women, different times, different places, yet the same cold execution, the same isolation. The local media griped. Are these connected? What do they share? The case ticked into national news cycles, with speculation mounting that a serial predator was operating, stalking these women, striking with vicious precision, and all of them left behind in places that require effort to find, hard to reach terrain, unremarkable on the surface. Fast forward to June 2023. 39-year-old Jesse Lee Calhoun is pulled over on unrelated parole violations. Nothing tying a man to murder until someone notices his name, his records, his proximity to crime scenes. He'd been in and out of prison for burglary, assaulting officers, firearm offenses. But now, investigators connect him, quietly at first, to the deaths of Perry, Webster, and Speaks. By May 2024, a grand jury indicts him for those 3 murders and the abuse of their corpses. He pleads not guilty, winks at cameras, cold, unyielding. And then in August 2025, comes a blow everyone expected. Another indictment, this time for the murder of Kristen Smith in 2022, the 4th of 4. District Attorney Nathan Vasquez called it a visible step toward justice. He added that another case, Ashley Reel, found in Clackamas County, was still unresolved and potentially connected. What follows is a story of heartbreak and scandal. Calhoun's original release in 2021 came from a controversial program that allowed prisoners to fight wildfires in exchange for early release. That perceived goodwill becomes a devastating loophole when news of his crime surfaces. Governor Tina Kotek rescind the program. But the damage is done. Families battered by grief go public with messages that sear the conscience. Melissa Smith, Kristen's mother, recites a broken mantra. I never lost hope. I never gave up. Charity's mother, Diana Allen, challenges the accused directly. You are not the smartest person in the room, but you're no longer in your room. You're in mine. The courtroom echoes with crippling emotion. The investigative timeline unfurls like a symphony of obsessiveness. Phone GPS pushing Calhoun's device near each scene. Car rental records showing a blue Dodge passing proximity checkpoints. Forensic evidence linking him incontrovertibly. Forensics trace his shoe print into a soft patch of moss at one site. DNA from his jacket fiber is found tangled in shrubbery beside another. It's enough to bury the doubt. Yet, he's never officially titled a serial killer. Investigators focus on each count, each name as individual tragedies. The public sees the pattern anyway. And then there's Ashley Reel, now actively reviewed for inclusion. Could there be others? Calhoun is locked in a cage awaiting trial. It's not set until 2027, 2 years from now. His defense team argues insanity, delusion, systemic failure, but prosecutors counter with calm horror. He planned, he stalked, he executed. Each victim's story is replayed. Her last phone call, her family's heartbreak. Evidence is methodical, undeniable. Meanwhile, Skylar's story ends. Her story remains untold. This time, there's no survivor. This is about the women who can no longer speak. The deeper you dig into Jesse Lee Calhoun's life, the more the contradictions surface. To neighbors, he was the man who occasionally mowed his mother's lawn, smoked on the porch, and seemed quiet. To law enforcement, he was a familiar name, a career criminal whose rap sheet read like a blueprint for escalating violence. Burglary, assault, resisting arrest, illegal firearms possession. But here's the part that would later enrage the public. Calhoun wasn't supposed to be free when these women were killed. In 2019, he'd been sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison for his role in a car theft ring and for assaulting a police officer. He was due to serve that time until the Oregon Department of Corrections launched a program allowing inmates to earn early release by fighting wildfires. Calhoun signed up, put on the gear, and spent weeks on the fire line. By 2021, then Governor Kate Brown commuted his sentence. At the time, it was hailed as a win-win. Inmates contributing to disaster relief, getting a second chance. But when his name surfaced in connection with 4 murders, that same second chance became the centerpiece of outrage. Editorial headlines raged. How many more victims will our system create? For investigators, the turning point came not from some cinematic moment of confession, but from the slow, grinding work of piecing together timelines. Surveillance footage, license plate readers, and cell tower pings painted an invisible map of his movements. Kristen Smith's disappearance, the first known strike. Kristen's case became the earliest in the timeline once the 4th indictment landed in August 2025. Prosecutors revealed that cell data placed Calhoun in the exact wooded area where her body was later found. On the very night she vanished, a trail cam photo from a nearby property caught the faint image of a man matching his build walking alone at 3:14 a.m., the timestamp barely visible in the corner. Forensic soil samples from his truck matched the unique clay composition of the burial site, and the fibers, 2 synthetic red threads lodged in the cuff of her jacket, matched a fleece blanket found in his apartment. It was small, circumstantial, but when added to the rest, it was devastating. Charity Perry, April 2023. Charity had struggled with addiction but was clawing her way back, staying with her mother and working toward a GED. She was last seen near a bus stop in Portland, wearing a green hoodie and jeans. Witnesses recalled seeing her speaking with a man near a dark-colored pickup when her body was found in a shallow ditch along the banks of a remote river. The medical examiner confirmed strangulation. Detectives found a cigarette, but 3 feet from the body. The DNA? Calhoun's. Bridget Webster, May 2023. Bridget was discovered by a farmer on a logging road. She had blunt force trauma to the head, and her belongings were missing. Investigators later found that Calhoun had pawned jewelry matching Bridget's description 2 days after her death. His phone? It was powered off for 36 hours during the exact window she went missing, a common tactic used to avoid location tracking. Joanna Speaks, April 2023. Her body was abandoned in a barn in Ridgefield, Washington, across state lines, a move prosecutors say was designed to complicate jurisdiction. She bore multiple head wounds, suggesting a violent struggle. Barn dust and hay residue were later found in the trunk of Calhoun's vehicle. The families and the press. Every press conference became both a plea for justice and a public trial. Cameras flashed. Microphones crowded podiums. Mothers clutched framed photos. Fathers stared blankly ahead. Melissa Smith, speaking for Kristen, stood in front of reporters in August 2025, hands trembling but voice sharp. You stole her life. You thought you'd get away with it. But we're still here, and we're not going anywhere. Diana Allen, mother of Charity Perry, leaned into the microphone, eyes locked on the suspect's mugshot displayed behind her. You are not the smartest person in the room, but you're no longer in your room. You're in mine. The quotes went viral. TikTok edits layered their voices over slow pans of crime scene photos and courtroom sketches. Twitter lit up with hashtags. Hashtag Justice for Kristen. Hashtag Justice for Charity. Hashtag Lock Up Calhoun. The ongoing mystery, Ashley Real. Then there's Ashley Real. Found in Clackamas County in 2023. She fits the pattern. A young woman found in a remote location, signs of homicide. Her case is still officially under investigation. But law enforcement insiders whisper that the evidence trail is already leading to Calhoun. If Ashley is confirmed, the death toll rises. And it begs the question, are there more? Oregon State Police have begun quietly reviewing unsolved disappearances within a 150-mile radius, cross-referencing DNA and cell tower data with Calhoun's known movements. The serial killer label debate. Despite the pattern, prosecutors have avoided calling him a serial killer outright. Why? Legal strategy. Labels can bias juries before trial and complicate prosecution. Instead, they're stacking murder charges one by one, confident that even a single conviction will ensure he never sees freedom again. But in the public eye, the debate is over. The pattern is too clean, the similarities too glaring. For women dead, possibly more, all found in hidden, natural areas that require familiarity with rural roads. Calhoun knew those roads well. He grew up in Oregon. He worked odd jobs in forestry. He hunted. It's almost anticlimactic how Calhoun first came back into custody. There was no dramatic standoff, no chase through the woods. In June 2023, police pulled him over on a routine stop and arrested him for violating his parole conditions. On paper, it had nothing to do with murder, at least not yet. Inside the station, however, detectives already had a growing suspicion. They knew his name from several ongoing homicide files. They just needed the kind of hard evidence that survives the courtroom. Inmates talk. It's prison currency. Information favors protection. By July 2023, a jailhouse informant claimed Calhoun had spoken loosely about women who didn't deserve to be found. Detectives took it seriously, but without corroborating proof, it was just noise. The real turning point came when Oregon State Crime Lab processed a cigarette, but from Charity Perry's scene. It was Calhoun. Once they had that match, every unsolved case in the region involving a young woman in a remote location was flagged for DNA comparison. In the trunk carpet of his truck, forensics found a single blonde hair microscopically identical to Kristen Smith's. On the driver's side floor mat, minute flecks of blood, later confirmed as Bridget Webster's. It wasn't enough for conviction on its own, but it was enough for a pattern. Forensic genealogy, similar to the technology that caught the Golden State Killer, was even used on degraded biological material from Joanna Speaks' scene, further tightening the circle. In the end, the Jesse Lee Calhoun case is more than just a criminal file. It's a mirror held up to cracks in the justice system. It's a cautionary tale about the balance between redemption and public safety. As of now, he sits in a cell awaiting trial, the weight of murder charges, and possibly more, pressing down. Prosecutors believe they have enough to ensure he never walks free again. But trials are unpredictable, and until the gavel falls, the families will keep showing up, holding their loved ones' photos, demanding answers. For the people of Oregon and Washington, the scars run deep. The wooded trails and quiet riversides that once offered peace now carry a shadow. And somewhere in those woods, perhaps, still lie answers to questions we haven't thought to ask yet. Because with predators like this, the scariest part is often not what we know, but what we haven't found. This case is not just about charges and headlines. It's about real people. Kristen, Charity, Bridget, Joanna. Faces erased by violence. Families who continue to grieve. And one man, now facing his fourth indictment, looming behind bars. If this story made you feel something, anger, sadness, determination, then make it count. Like and share this video to keep their names alive. And if you want daily investigative storytelling, subscribe to the Crime Vault. Justice may take time, but here, none of them will fall into silence. Until next time, stay alert, stay kind, and never look away.